Hello people, this is Ryder here to review the Ultraman Zero Sound Ultra Narikiri Ultra Zero Eye. So yeah, obviously in commemoration of Season 3 of New Generation Stars, this is the second, this release of the Ultra Zero Eye is a part of the second wave of Sound Ultra Narikiri items, to which obviously started with Season 2 with the Riser. What is this on my thumb? The Riser, the Orb Ring, and the Gut Spark Lens, and then followed up with the Orb Ring, the Orb Caliber, and then for Season 3, we have, obviously, the Ultra Zero Eye for Zero's 15th anniversary, the Blazar Brace, and the Ultra D Flasher. Sorry for mixing it up. And then that's going to get followed up with the Belly Rock. Anyways, here we have the box for the Ultra Zero Eye, to which this actually does use the Ultraman Zero logo, so we'll be crediting it under that. Though technically, I would be crediting this under Ultraman Saga, just for fun. But anyways, we have the box that is, surprisingly, it's not trying to be on par with the original Ultra Zero Eye box, but it does its own thing, which I really like. It has Zero right there. It shows it in gun mode. And then, again, just tells you the basics of how this functions. The product itself, that's not a description, I think that's a warning. Again, it tells you the modes, the QR code for the PDF file, the warnings and cautions, and it still falls on the back. So let's, obviously we will take a look at this, and yeah. Alright, so here we have the Ultra Zero Eye, the Sound Narikiri's Ultra Sound Narikiri Ultra Zero Eye out, and as you can see from here, I don't remember if I've pointed out, but obviously the biggest, not the biggest thing, you can tell that the details that are necessary are there in gun mode. Technically what's not present right now is just the ultra marking right here, because this is supposed to be black, but there's no black here. But as you can see from here, what used to be the LED is now just a green gem and such. Again, in gun mode, this thing looks solid and such. It's not until you look around it, as you can tell, it's not really cool and that, yeah, it's just gray plastic, and this is not really fully painted in. This button is still a thing. This button is still a thing too. So the buttons are still intact. This obviously no longer, this doesn't have a red gem, so obviously it doesn't light up and such. But yeah, obviously when we change it to Ultra Zero Eye mode, as you can tell, again, the appearance is pretty stellar. Like it's a really good replication of the prop itself. Like, especially with how sharp the eye lenses are and such. It's just that when you turn it to the back, obviously it just, like, obviously reasonably so, it looks cheap because of its price range and such. And as you can see here, we have the battery cover, the pull tab, and the speaker, to which this requires, or this has two LR44s. Obviously, we have a hole and a peg here for when you lock it into gun mode. And like, again, like transforming this from like gun mode to Ultra Eye mode or Ultra Zero Eye mode is pretty, it's still solid. I kind of actually prefer how much more solid this is and such, even if it's kind of, it is kind of more rougher, but you know, it's still like a swift, it's still a swift transformation. Obviously, we have a button here to indicate the mode change. So when it's not held down, it's in Ultra Eye mode. When it's held down, it's in gun mode. So, now let's take a look at the 2020 re-release of the Ultra DX Ultra Zero Eye from 2010. As you can tell, again, there's going to be difference because, again, this is based off the DX1. This is based off of the Ultra Replica mold just downsized. So obviously that means the eyepiece here and obviously the lens are not prop accurate. But, you know, for the most part, the details are there. Again, as I said before, really the only thing missing is the black paint here. But again, it's luckily molded, so you can just put that in. As I said before, unlike this one, the gray plastic is just really obvious as opposed to this one. And again, transforming it, as I said before, this one is a lot bigger, but unfortunately the thing too is that just because of how much times I've dismantled this, it does become loose. So again, you just simply press the spring down. Press the spring down like so. My apologies. There. So yeah, basically doing that loosens this over time. I think from what I can tell, you can't do that with this one, so the solidness is going to be there. But anyways, so yeah, like even the DX one didn't have the red down here, so it. But I guess at the cost of this, no black paint. But again, this one's more narrower than this one. But obviously, this one actually fits your face. This one fully. This one doesn't. So, yeah. So again, just pull the pull tab like so. I don't know if you can catch that, but this thing doesn't really have the greatest sound quality, reasonably so. So let's change it to gun mode first. So, gun mode, obviously, it functions the same. We just press the trigger button like so. You just get the singular firing sound. You can't hold it down, and the sound just sounds incomplete. It kind of cuts itself off. I apologize about that. So changing it to Ultra Zero Eye mode. It's the same sound you get for pulling it out. This time around, you actually need to hold down the button as opposed to pressing it, because then it will get into another mode. So hold it down. So there we have the standard transformation of Ultraman Zero, obviously with the Zero Sluggers landing on his head. However, if we hold it down again, we have a shortened version of Zero's transformation, which is pretty neat. And now, if we were to press the button down, we actually have 5 attacks of Zero. And that is basically it, and such. So, You can just reset it like so. It doesn't necessarily reset because it still keeps in mind what mode or like where you were on. Obviously, this doesn't do anything, and you can't skip into an attack sound while you're transforming. The only way you can do that is by changing it to gun mode. You cannot overlap sounds, as you can hear. So if we were to compare the sounds, why is it dying now? So let's compare the sounds. This one's always going to multi-press, just because this one's based on how much you hold it down. So it's always going to at least do 2 presses, which is why, I think that's why this one cuts off. But obviously this one's going to have a better sound quality, or a better sound quality because it has a better speaker. And then again, this one you just need to press, while this one you need to hold down. So let's... Whoops. Yeah, this one's still longer because it's the modern one and such. But yeah, that's kind of all the sound comparisons we can do and such. Yeah, we'll just transform it back like so. Yeah, just put the pull tab back in like so. Yeah, honestly, what I think about this release of the sound, or the Ultrasound Narikiri Ultra Zero Eye, it's fine. Like, honestly, I feel like the Ultra Zero Eye is just kind of, for me, it's kind of the Ultraman counterpart to like the V Buckle in terms of like whenever that toy gets released, you can't really do a lot of wrong with re-releasing the Zero Eye because it's so basic. like, you know, despite its scale or despite its price range and such, I think it's cool that it's still able to like do its core functions, even with a lot of sacrifices and such. Yes, we've had Ultra Zero Eyes that haven't made sounds, but like honestly, like for, as I've said before, I think the reason why I particularly picked up this release, or this version for the 3rd season of New Generation Stars, is because of the fact it's heavily based off of the Ultra Replica mold, which itself is based off of the actual prop. And because I don't think at any point I'm going to pick up the Ultra Replica Ultra Zero Eye, I at least wanted a version of an Ultra Zero Eye that is more prop like and such, because I have more fondness over this look, obviously, but like, you know, it's just kind of cool to have a version that looks like the actual prop. And it's actually really cool that compared to all the other Sound Narikiri releases that are just straight up the DX, like, that are like kind of like one-to-one with the DX releases up for the new generation, I feel like this one actually does more and such by giving us 2 variants of the transformation and 5 attacks. That's honestly a lot more than what the other ones do. Though I'll admit, like, obviously that's just generally because the other ones are going off of what their Bandai China counterparts did, especially the Blazer Brace and the Jeet Riser. But like, you know, the ones we got last year again were like pretty basic in terms of like what you're able to do, as you're only able to do like the one form and such. I feel like the only new generation one that's kind of on par with this one is probably the Jade Riser, But again, that's just because Bandai China did that. I'm pretty sure there is a Bandai China counterpart to this release, but I haven't seen videos on it. I've seen Bandai China counterparts to all the other new generation transformation devices that are in this lineup, or gonna be in the future, because I think what's left is the Rube Gyro, the Taiga Spark, and the Victory Lancer, or the X Divisor too. But I haven't seen the Victory Lancer or the X Divisor. But yeah, honestly, you know, for I think it's for about $20, which is kind of a bit too much for what it's asking for, especially if you can just go out and look for, like, obviously it's just better to go out and either get the DX release from 2020, or if you're really eager to just have a version of the Ultra Zero Eye, just go for the 15th anniversary version of the Ultra Replica. Or if you really want the Zero Brace, go back and get the original Ultra Zero Eye Ultra Replica. But other than that, I think this one's pretty solid and such. I can't really fault, like, the plastic, or, you know, just the gray plastic, the sound quality and such. I think it's actually impressive they managed, again, to do all those sounds in this really uh condensed, like, soundboard and such. Obviously the sacrifice is just how compressed the audio is, and just, you know, again, the sound quality. But it's just like, I can't really blame them for that, especially for the price range. So that'll have to do with this review. This is Ryder, and I'll leave you people. Bye.